I just thought that like everybody's a musician and like doctors and lawyers and firefighters, like they just did that for fun.
I can see you're outnumbered here.
My name is Eric Schwartz, and my background is actually in media and such, and I sort of washed out a little in that regard because of, well, that industry kind of collapsed around me too. So,
Dude, the irony of you helping produce this show and me knowing basically nothing about that, but knowing everything about the other side is actually just really funny.
yeah, but you're
Real doctor.
Dr. Alexandra Signor.
Ooh, the government name's coming out. I'm in trouble.
Dr. Lexie if you're nasty.
Ooh, yay.
And so, so this is actually your podcast, and we thought for the first episode that it would be maybe a little better for, listeners in that to kind of understand what the show's about, kind of who you are. Obviously, a lot of the folks that have been, chatting on the Facebook group and you just did a TikTok live. And
Dude, there were
some other
400
things.
people in that live.
Yeah. So they might know who you are, but, someone might be finding this podcast randomly and, we should provide them a little bit of context.
Context helps.
So for the most part, I'm going to be, behind the scenes, if that from here on out. But, this episode at least is where, we can kind of learn who you are.
It's the backstory.
Yeah. So I don't know. Do you want to just do like, therapy session and we go, let's
Listen,
talk
if
about
we're going to do Lexie Does Therapy, we're going to be here for 3 fucking hours. So we should probably maybe start at the beginning.
So yeah, let's talk about your childhood and how you got here.
Oh my God, it is a therapy session shit. So I actually got this question in the live today. Like, when did you start being a musician and when did you start like being a professional musician, which actually, of course, set up the whole, origin story of Lexie's villain origin story. Because at this point, that is basically what this is. So I grew up in a musical family. My dad was a child prodigy. My mom played guitar and sang in a rock band. She thinks she's a professional musician. And if you're listening, Mom, sorry, I'm just going to call it what it is. You're not a professional musician anymore. You were at one time. It is okay.
Retired professional
There
musician.
you go. She's retired. She's a retired professional musician.
On sabbatical.
Yes, indefinite sabbatical. For sure. So my entire, and when I say my entire family is musical, I mean my entire family is musical. Like, my dad played an instrument, my uncles sang and danced.
Like a Partridge Family kind of situation.
Like, basically. I mean, they actually, there's cute pictures in our family family photo books of like the family band with like all like my uncle and my dad and uncles and grandma and everybody playing all of their respective instruments. My great grandfather was like the principal of the Detroit Symphony, principal clarinetist of the Detroit Symphony. And so I was just surrounded by music at a young age. And for those of you out there who have no idea who I am an autistic person, and music is my special interest. It's also the special interest of most of my family. And being that that's the case, I just thought that like everybody's a musician and like doctors and lawyers and firefighters, like they just did that for fun. Like, they just really like firefighting. Like, wow, I'm going to wake up and I'm just going to do that for fun. It sounds really exciting. It's an exciting hobby, I would imagine. But that music actually paid all of their bills. So, imagine my surprise, like coming up as a person that identifies as autistic and everybody else is a musician. So like, wait, people don't just play saxophone for a living? Like, no, he's just a lawyer for fun. No, really? Okay, that's the other way around. That's weird. So yeah, that was basically it. And I started like really thinking of myself as a musician probably late high school. And one could argue that because I chose the trumpet, that is my villain origin story. Like, I'm a woman who deliberately chose to like scale Mount Everest, relatively speaking. So, does that kind of get to the quick?
Well, I think, yeah. So you picked up trumpet at a young age, and from there, you're like, okay, I mean, did you decide that you're gonna play trumpet for a living, or how did you get on the trajectory that you're on?
Oh, that is a great question. Because I have so many stories regarding that. But growing up, I was always obviously ahead of the curve, like from a musical standpoint. Like I could read music. I don't remember a time in my life where I couldn't read music. Let's put it that way. I read music before English. And so I had a huge leg up on most of my classmates and all of that. But equally, as I was coming up through the ranks in high school, I was actually really good at theater. And every listener is out there going, no way. You're a theater kid? Yeah, I'm a theater kid. Shock to no one. And so I remember really vividly thinking to myself in like my junior year before I was like, okay, I have to pick a career path here. I have to figure out something to major in college. I remember standing on the front side of the apron of the auditorium. And there was a lot of bull crap going on in my life at that point, including with the theater program itself. I had to take over as the director for our spring production for reasons that I shouldn't go into here on behalf of the person who dubbed me the director. But anyway,
the 90s where students are also just running things in schools.
I was honored to be trusted to run an entire production, and I have indescribable reverence for my theater teacher, Mrs. Ivan. Like, if you're out there listening, I love you and I have loved you, and you have had an incredible impact on my life this entire time. But I remember standing on the front of the apron of the auditorium and thinking to myself, okay, I want to do a creative thing with my life. I want to either be a musician or an actor.
Because you can be anything you want to be.
Right? Like, well, there's that joke about like all the gifted kids this Halloween just going as gifted kids and being like, I should have been something.
I could have been a lot of things.
I could have been a lot of things. That was the line. Oh my God, I couldn't remember. But anyway, so I was like, well, the odds of me coming from Northern Michigan and being not a size 4 and not conventionally good looking, becoming an actor and actually making money at it without any help in the industry at all. Because even then I knew that it was like all nepotism, all money. Like I just didn't have the connections. I was like, yeah, I should probably stick to music because that
makes sense.
Way more familiar.
Exactly. Yeah, music. None of that happens in. So
of course, there's no nepotism or like cronyism or bullshit in music ever. Of course not.
We'll get to that later.
Right. So like I remember distinctly that moment going, okay, I think it's probably wise to put my eggs in the musician basket. And then I went out and I auditioned for a bunch of music schools. And I got into a bunch of them. Like I got into U of M and MSU and CMU. And for those of you listening, these are all Michigan schools. So fill in the blanks there. But none of them gave me like a full ride for performance, except Northern gave me a full ride for music education. And initially I was like, I don't know if I really want to be a teacher, but since no one really thinks that I could perform for a living, apparently, maybe I should do that. And also that's where the money is. And hey, bonus, it's 3 hours from home and I don't have to see my mother. Yeah.
Well, and then, you throw in the often used line about, if you get those that can't do, teach.
Oh my God. I have such a love-hate relationship with that statement.
I know. It's so bad.
Oh God. It makes me cringe.
But that's one of those where that gave you a solid foundation, right? You were doing performance, but you can also help others.
Well, the funny thing about it, like phrasing it that way is like if you had a time machine and you went back and you asked 17-year-old Lexie, because I graduated like stupid freaking early from high school, like is the focus of your degree more performance or more education? I would have laughed you out of the fucking room because I'm like, no, I'm not good enough to be a performer. Like, no. But the irony of me saying that is that like I got so many accolades and my teachers were so supportive of me being a performer. It just did not sink in very well. Like my freshman year, I shit you not. And you might not know this person, but musicians listening out in the world would know this name. Bud Herseth, who was, then I think the retired principal of the Chicago Symphony, principal trumpeter of the Chicago Symphony, was doing a tour. He had come up to work with the Marquette Symphony and, of course, was doing master classes at NMU. And so at first I was like, wow, that's really neat. I don't know who that guy is because I'm a freshman at Northern Michigan University who doesn't know anything. But then my teacher's like, yeah, you want to play for this master class? And I'm like, well, sure, I guess, but I don't really feel like I'm the person who should be doing that. Like there's a bunch of seniors that are like way better than me that should be doing that. And he's like, no, you should try. And that was like always his thing. And anybody out there who knows Mark Flaherty knows that voice. No, you should try. It'll be fun. Like he's so good at talking you into stuff. It's like a crime. But anyway, he talked me into it. And it was a pretty transformative moment in my conception of myself as a performer, because I was like, wow, if my teacher thinks I'm good enough to perform for Bud Herseth, maybe I don't suck at trumpet as much as I think I do. And so, yeah, like that's what landed me at Northern. And to this day, I feel like of the 3 schools that I've gone to, from a nuts and bolts and 101 perspective, I think they did the best job. Like, as far as preparing me for being out in the world and being a functioning human and doing the job that I was trained to do there, which was be a music educator, I came out of there very much knowing my shit. And they were really, really hard on everybody, because they, at the time, had one of the best music education degrees in the state, if not the country. So I feel honored to have survived that program. But at the same time, there was no job in the state of Michigan that I didn't feel prepared to take. I mean, that could just be the trumpet ego talking too. Yeah, I'm gonna go take over the program at Dearborn, some huge high school. But yeah. Anyway.
But I think it's one of those, when you do graduate from a program that's academically rigorous and has a reputation, you feel like you've accomplished something and you're going, now I could take on the world. And and the reality is, a lot of cases that's true.
Right.
But there's always those instances where you're like, oh no, I bit off more than I could chew. But you decided to go out there, and what happened next?
Oh man. So this is one of my favorite stories to tell, mostly because it pisses me off, and I hope it pisses other people off. Because I didn't get to learn the truth of this story until the plot had ended. It was the worst choose your own adventure in the history of choose your own adventures.
So wait, it's like one of those where you're watching a movie or TV show, and the audience knows all the pieces and the main character doesn't, and you're yelling at the screen just going, no, you idiot.
Yes, it was that. Oh my God. I actually, this dumb plot twist had such an effect on me that I actually literally did a TED Talk about it later in life. You can find my TED Talk on YouTube. Just search my name, Lexie Signor TED Talk. It's there.
Well, and we'll put a link to it in the show notes too.
Yeah, sounds good.
Because we're gonna have fancy podcast things like show notes.
Fancy podcast things. Yeah, totally. So what happened next was, the recurring theme here is Lexie does everything right and gets screwed over. This has happened repeatedly, and that's why we're here at the Rogue Academic. I'm here to tell my story. So I did all the right things. I took a band program that had maybe 40, 50 kids in it tops. And by the time I had been ushered out the door unceremoniously, that program had 700 kids in it. It was the entire population of the Class D school in the middle of freaking nowhere, Michigan. And that, I don't know the percentage off of the top of my head, but that is a huge amount of growth in 3 years. And the irony of the whole thing is that at that 3rd year is when they would have decided, well, maybe we want to offer her a tenure track position, but no, all the sports people, all the people that, their teams and their this and their that weren't getting enough attention, because the band was getting all the attention for all of the things that we were winning, and we were actually doing halftime shows, and we actually we raised our own money, and I did that on purpose so that no one could say no to me. Basically, it's just you can't do anything if I have my own money. We raised almost $100,000 in 3 years in a small community that was ours, and I had planned to buy new chairs and do some improvements around the program, et cetera, et cetera. I had all this stuff in place to improve this program and make it something great and memorable and something this town could be really proud of, because they had a program there that they were proud of for 100 freaking years. And the school board that year decided, well, it's 2008, there's a big recession, we're just going to take her salary and hide it in reimbursements to all of the different coaches and whatnot. And then miraculously, there was no money for my salary. What?
And I'm sure that probably, this also meant that some other sports here and there were probably cut or, drawn back too, because
no.
Really?
Not a one.
Because I feel like that
in fact, they were expanded. I think they gave assistant coach positions to 2 other teams.
Because I feel like that was a common thing at that time, was yeah, we're going to beef up the big programs because that's what's getting us attention, and then everything else gets cut. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I don't have the facts to confirm it. I heard it, of course, after the fact. But yeah, they actually expanded teams and coaches, and stuff after I left, and they hid all the money that was supposed to be like, they claimed that they didn't have enough money to cover the insurance on the instruments. Okay, let me tell you, those instruments were 100 years old. They weren't really worth that much money in the first place, other than the stuff that I bought. So that's a bogus excuse, you guys. And like, I was so shocked and appalled, and like I even had like band parents going to the school board. We had this big fat meeting. It was, Miss S versus the school board, and Miss S and 300 people versus the school board had no effect on the outcome of me being pink slipped.
Well, and again, this is you in your early 20s.
Oh, I was 21. I was the head of my own department, queen of my own little queendom from ages 19 to 21. Like, it was insane. Oh, sorry. No. 21 to 24.
Math is not your strong suit.
I can only count to 4. I'm a musician, man.
Right. But like that's the thing is, I think of like myself at that age.
Right.
And going, first of all, thinking that I did something really good, feeling successful. And then all of a sudden, sorry, we're going to take it away and give you some bullshit excuses as to why. And like, we're obviously not here to go back and, argue about what happened or anything like that. But
I can't change it.
But just, it's one of those that sort of was like the first big disappointment for you.
Yeah.
And by no consequence of your own, I mean, we can certainly blame maybe politicians on the recession or this and that. But like, the point is, on a very local level, I
pissed off a bunch of old white dudes.
Yeah. And that was kind of the, you were probably, doing a bit of an autopsy of the position and everything like that to figure out like,
where did I go wrong?
Yeah. Because, you're a smart individual that cares and,
right.
You don't want to repeat the same mistakes.
Yeah. Which I then did like 10 years later, twice, because I'm stupid, apparently. But yeah, so that was actually what landed me in grad school. And I guess one could think like the grad school villain arc is a contributing, if not like the complete origin of the rogue academic.
Late 2000s, I was in the same boat of, job market's terrible, not a lot of options. And so, I stuck around for grad school. So you go back and do grad school. And how did that process start? How did you end up there? And
so I have an immense amount of thanks and gratitude for Elaine Smiley, my then landlord, because once I lost my job, I was just like, what am I going to do? Like, I don't have an option here. It's 2008. There's a recession. No one's hiring band directors. The odds of me getting another job in the state of Michigan are friggin' slim. And I don't have the money to go back to grad school. So what? Do I wait tables? Like, what am I doing here? In hindsight, I probably should have just waited tables because I would have ended up so much further ahead of the game, really. But anyway, she was like, well, you should go to grad school. And I was like, I don't have money to go to grad school. And she's like, you're smart and capable. You should go to grad school on an assistantship. And at the time, I didn't even know what an assistantship was. So she had to explain that. And so basically what I did was I threw spaghetti at a wall, and I got my chops together and I threw in a bunch of auditions, not the least of which was for the St. Louis Symphony, because when you're ignorant, you have balls. Like, you're like, oh, I could totally win this symphony gig. It's fine. It's not one of the major 12 symphonies in the United States or anything. No big deal. Right? It's a community band. BS. So I put my audition in there and I got a call back to the St. Louis Symphony. And then the next week I got called back to audition for the University of Missouri for their grad program, their grad assistantship in trumpet. And this is another, like, unbeknownst to me, this is what actually happened behind the scenes sort of thing, because 3 years later, the then brass chair told me why everything went sideways. And I was like, that's really mean, but I'll tell you why. So unbeknownst to me, the faculty at Mizzou was basically like, look, if she's good enough to get like a second round audition at St. Louis, she's probably good enough to be our TA. Let's just hire her and call it a day. And I remember hearing this and I was just like, dang it. Okay, that was really kind of you, I guess, because I tried to get both auditions to be the same weekend. And so basically they had hired me without me knowing that they had hired me. They're just like, yeah, do this thing. My mistake in all of this was not vetting like the teacher and the situation. Like I wasn't crazy about living in Missouri. But you know, I wasn't against it either because I was just like, well, you know, it's a different climate and I guess I could go experience things and whatever. But anyway,
you learned about a new kind of level of humidity.
I did. The swass that exists in Missouri is beyond legendary. So I did that, and while I was there, I did not get along with my teacher, and I don't think this is a mystery to anyone. And I think he would even say that. So yeah, my biggest mistake in all of that was just not vetting the teacher. We didn't get along, and I was miserable. And as a result of me being miserable, I was looking for a way out of that degree program. I had every intention of finishing a master's degree, and at the time they were starting a master's degree in jazz performance and pedagogy, which basically the guy that administered that was the director of jazz studies there at the time, who was also like, he was kind of like pushing his power around a little bit and being like, oh yeah, I could do this and I can do that. And if you do this for me, I can do that for you. Like there was a lot of quid pro quo kind of bullshit happening. But in my position, because he already saw like, oh yeah, this person is miserable here, I can make their life a little bit better. It was basically like a whole lot of, well, if you do this for me, then we can do this for you kind of things, which ended up turning into an extremely abusive situation.
Oh, so despite the fact that you were, you know, not going to go into acting, you still kind of ended up with one of those situations of,
Shock.
you know, I'm going to make a star out of you, but you know.
That, exactly. And so what ended up happening was he took advantage of the fact that I was miserable and like helped me be less miserable on one side of things, but made me exponentially more miserable on a personal level because I was being abused by him and it, like under the guise of, oh, look at me, I can do all these things for your career kind of shit. And so I survived all of that and I came out of there with 2 master's degrees. One they don't even offer anymore because they ousted him for all of his crimes against humanity, thank God. And then I basically like went straight on to a doctorate after that because I was like, well, I have 2 master's degrees. There's not a whole lot going on in the world of teaching right now. There's not a lot of positions open that I would want. I'm just going to go do a doctorate because then I will get paid more. Boy, how wrong I was. Shock.
Well, I mean, they do call a doctorate a terminal degree, so it made sense to go and continue and say, I've achieved. I've completed it.
Right. I did all the right things. Look at me. I checked all the boxes. Turns out that doesn't mean shit. Weird.
You know, and this kind of leads to, did you go right from your graduate work into your doctorate?
I did. Yeah,
Okay.
I did. I went from one straight to another because I was basically escaping a stalker. And also I really wanted a doctorate. Like that's I think the saddest part is that I really did want to be Dr. Lexie at the end of the day. Like that's a title that I've now achieved. It means nothing, but I did it, you know. And I will never throw any of my faculty at IU under the bus. I mean, God knows they've gotten enough bad press as is, but like all the folks along the way that helped me out, I would I'm eternally grateful to all of them. So like anything that I say regarding having a doctorate and not using it and being mad about that, this is not about you guys. You know who you are.
Well, and you know, those listening might not be familiar or might not be from the education world. You know, you might have some folks that are maybe in the performance world or somebody that just came across this podcast randomly and they're like, well, you've stuck around this far and you're listening to Lexie talk.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, maybe, you know, working on your doctorate, right? You had that going on and you weren't in Bloomington, Indiana the whole time. You
Right.
were working on that. You ended up doing some performance work out on the East Coast. And then, you know, I don't know if you want to share a little bit of that experience.
Yeah. I mean, so there are schools in the United States and other places too, I'm sure, where the expectation at a high level is that you're probably not going to spend your entire degree's like length at that school because you're going to get picked up and hired for the road. And I am, again, super grateful to Pat Harbison for connecting me with Sherry Miracle and just saying like, hey, you need a lead player for this thing on the East Coast. It was the Maurice Hines Tapping Through Life in Philly tour. you need a lead player for that, and Liesel's out, so here, try Lexie. And she did, and it was the most transformative performance opportunity of my life to that point. Those performances stick with me to this day. But the result of that was that I was doing coursework from an Airbnb a lot of the time. Like, I was trying to get in like research papers for my advanced music theory classes, like from, sketchy internet on the other side of the country. It's just, but these are givens when you like, I took these all as good signs that like, yes, you're on the right path. You're doing what you need to do, what you're supposed to do, whatever. Because, you're going to be something.
Well, and again, for like listener context, this is not what you have now, where students are doing a lot of things online, with Zoom or Teams.
God, no.
Or whatever else. I mean, this was mid 2010s.
Yeah.
And so kind of doing class away from class wasn't quite as common.
No. Thankfully, though, the professors at IU were kind of used to that. Like, IU does not attract chumps. Like, people that end up as grad students at IU are generally some of the top in their field. And so it's expected that there's going to have to be some sort of like, compromise made as far as like, okay, you have to finish this course, but I get that you're on tour with this group or whatever. Like, that's pretty normal there.
Yeah. So then you go, you gigging out on the East Coast for a bit, really kind of, making a name for yourself, so to speak.
Yeah.
And, enjoying it. But then, there's always this kind of working on the promise of finishing that doctorate.
Yeah, that took a long time, both because the research was like extensive. I mean, like, part of being on the East Coast that was really nice was having access to things like the Smithsonian, the Library of Congress, all that. And also having access to like individual players who had access to libraries that I would not necessarily have had access to otherwise. Like, I was working with a lot of big band musicians who were like in the trenches in the era that I was researching. So it all kind of worked out. And again, this is just me going, oh, I'm doing everything right. The universe is with me. Yay, kumbaya. And so it took me a long freaking time to finish that research. I had kind of hit a wall. At one point on the East Coast, I was working with a band. It was a well-known band. I'm not going to mention them because I don't want their fans to come after me because they're those kinds of fans. But anyway, I was over it. For lack of better expression, the tour manager, because it's not really a tour manager, it's a cover band, was hard to work with and abusive in some ways. And I was being verbally abused by one of the guys on the band that I had to stand next to constantly because he played saxophone. And it was about race. And I was just like, dude, no one has a problem with you being the only African American on this band. So why do you have a problem with me being a white girl? Like, what is your major malfunction, guy? And he spent entire gigs whispering in my ear about how, like, I bet you don't have any black friends, I bet you this, I bet you that. And it's like, dude, I have done nothing to you except play notes next to you. Like, what's your freaking problem? So I had just had enough of it, and I was just like, I'm quitting this band. I am going to find a different way to make money. And that was a huge, like, hard thing for me to wrap my head around, because I was making between $1,000 and $2,000 a week on that band. And I was like, I'm going to find a different way to do this. I am going to leverage this doctorate. I'm going to go teach master classes, and I'm going to get back into academia. I have what I need. I need to get the hell out. And so I did. I quit that band, and I was terrified because I was like, rent is still due, and I have now quit my main source of income. But one door closes, another door opens, la-di-da. I remember being in Miami at an International Trumpet Guild conference and hammered. Because my relationship at the time was going south fast, and there was nothing I could do about it, and I felt like it was all my fault. But I was at the bar, and I remember like being very bleary-eyed, like I couldn't quite see straight. And I opened my email, and I'm like trying to get my eyes to focus on this little tiny screen. And I had forgotten at this point that I had even applied to Indiana State to be their trumpet professor. I had totally forgotten that I even did that application because I hadn't heard anything. Like, and that's like one of the other pieces of bullshit about academia in general is just like you'll apply for these jobs and then they never get back to you. I just figured I was another number in the pile. So I'm like, oh, never going to hear about this. But here I am on cocktail number 3 at the bar going, hey, buddy, does that say interview? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, shit. It's because the interview was like Tuesday. And I was like, I have to buy a plane ticket. Oh, no.
Right, because again, initial interviews were not done over Zoom.
No, that was unacceptable. And not only did I have to buy a plane ticket, I had to be like collected and presentable and have my shit together. And I was like, oh God, okay, so we're going to do this. We're going to at least go interview. I'm a great interviewer. I mean, this interview might not be indicative of that, but I am a scary good interviewer. I could literally teach an entire course on being a good interviewer, probably. But I know it sounds like Donald Trump, and I'm so sorry for that. Like, I'm the best. I have the best interview skills, but I swear to God, I could interview for the CIA and get hired. I think I could. At any rate, so I did. I got my shit together. I got my plane ticket, and I went to Indiana State, and I got the job. Like, that's where the story was going. Is I got the job. I mean,
now for those of the folks out there who are not familiar with Indiana things,
yes.
Indiana State. I think at this point, basically the only thing you're known for is Larry Bird playing there years ago.
That's still the case.
Yeah. It's one of the 4 state schools.
It is.
Obviously, there's a few other smaller satellite schools and
Right.
such. So like, I don't want to necessarily write off like IU, South Bend, or
We
University
love directional schools.
University
we love small
of Southern
offshoot
Indiana
schools, right?
But for the 4 biggies, it's kind of one of those. It's
Yeah.
been around for a long time, and it's in the sprawling metropolis of Terre Haute.
Oh yes, absolutely. I was genuinely, and this might sound dumb, but I was actually genuinely happy to leave Philadelphia and move to Terre Haute. Frankly, I would have been happy to leave Philadelphia and move to Timbuktu, or Alaska would have been very nice, because there are fewer people and a lot like lower risk of me dying on the way back to my car after a gig. But Terre Haute would do, so I moved. And I got this cute little house, and I liked my time like as a person, as a human in Terre Haute. Like, I made some lifelong friends there, and I'm grateful that they are some of our listeners and some of our greatest supporters, even in the infant stages of this podcast. It's really cool. But yeah, so I taught there, and then I did the dumb thing again. I went and did a good job. I ran the jazz band so well that we had enough students interested that we could add 2 jazz bands by the end of my second year there. I expanded the trumpet studio from like 8 students to 16 students. I had the largest studio on campus in 2 years. And I was on a 3-year contract being paid $46,000 to do full-time professor work. Now, I mean, with a benefits package, fine, whatever. But like to compare, like there's another guy on their payroll who is the horn professor there, who now has no students because they've been taken away from him because he's a problem. But he makes $92,000 a year, has no students, teaches music appreciation, and isn't even allowed to sit on committees because he's such a freaking problem.
Well, and that the other thing too is like, this is not necessarily disclosing proprietary information because
no, it's public information. It's a public institution.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, if you're curious about this, and
fact check me.
And you're not in the higher ed space,
right?
Go look at what your university of choice is paying. Sometimes you have to dig. Sometimes the report is hidden somewhere, or it's like a certain class of employee. I know some schools will do that,
Yeah.
but the point is, the folks that have been there a while are getting paid pretty good money. I mean, making $90K in Indiana. That's
insanely good money.
Yeah.
Especially in Terre Haute. The cost of living is like nothing.
Yeah, well, and especially this is what, pre-pandemic.
Yep.
So, housing prices were significantly, like, you could buy a house on a year's salary there.
You could.
And so, that's the kind of context. And then, not to say that, first big teaching job out of,
I just wanted to do a good job.
Yeah,
that was it.
Like, you weren't expecting that amount, but that's kind of the nature of the business now is people are getting hired for significantly less.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something to kind of stress is the economics of it, that it's not the work your way up, it's that there is no path forward.
Nope, because most of the time they don't even turn 3-year contracts into tenure track jobs anymore. It used to be that you would work your 3-year contract and that was like their trial. And then like once you get to the end of the 3rd year, you'd go through your 3rd year review and they'd be like, oh, well, maybe we can turn this into a tenure track job. So few actually do that ever anymore. And like, don't even get me started on adjunct positions. I mean, basically, if they can get labor for no money, they will.
Well, and then the other part about this, you still had not finished your doctorate.
Right. I was ABD.
Yeah. So you had the work done and we're just wrapping things up and all that.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Oh, man. So at the time...
and let's just throw in for context, too.
Yeah.
Your TED Talk that you were talking about was done while you were at Indiana State.
It was done while I was at Indiana State, and it was a direct result of the absolute shit that I got in my 2nd year review. They dinged me on like a bunch of things that had absolutely nothing to do with my teaching ability, or the results that I got. I was told explicitly by one of my colleagues that I need to, quote, tone it down in my concerts because I actually conducted a jazz ensemble in an authentic way. One of the concerts that I had put forth was featuring music of like a Latin jazz nature, and I could get up on a soapbox about this, but I'm going to try not to. Anyway, it's disrespectful to not interact with jazz music. Like, it is meant to be in a club. It is an organic language. Languages are meant to be spoken. And when you speak, you have a conversation. It's not just you talking to yourself. And so I encourage the audience to dance and sing and sing back and forth with me in the context of this tune. And I think it was probably the fact that I was singing and I'm the trumpet professor that this vocal professor decided to tell me to tone it down in my 2nd year review, because how dare I step on her toes? Like, no one's coming for your wannabe sopranos, lady. Like, I just wanted people to have a good time and sing some jazz. Like, that's it. But that was the thing, is just like, there was like, that hall was full. I don't know how many people it seats. I think it was like 400, 500 people. But like, that hall was full. And most of those university concerts get like 5 or 10 people, which instantly pissed off every other professor like on campus. All of the insecure ones. Shout out to those that were friends with me, that you know who you are and you know that you're not the problem. But like, they got so angry that they decided to take it out on me from an administrative level because they knew there was nothing I could do about it.
Well, and I think especially like, again, the context of this is you're in your 2nd year.
Yep.
You're
well, that concert happened my 1st year.
Okay.
It was all downhill after that.
Yeah. So basically though, like you're new faculty.
Yeah.
You're trying to do a good job.
Yep.
And it's one of those where it's like, if you're successful, that looks good for the music program.
Right.
And so you're not going, I'm going to go tear down my colleagues.
No.
I'm not going to make them look bad.
Nope.
Like, the idea is that there's enough space for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like that there were some people that maybe didn't appreciate the fact that you were kind of pushing them. I mean, this would be no different than like, I mean, because like, yes, I follow enough in the sports world. It'd be like LeBron James joins your team and then you're mad that he scores a ton of baskets.
That's
and
exactly
like,
it.
It's like, that's
right.
You all are lifted up by that. You
No.
all succeed.
Well, and here's the real bullshit. So one of my initial confidants, like the guy that I thought was on my team that was friends with my teacher, to whom I went with my complaints about this review, like, I didn't know it, but he was the chair of the committee that put together that review. He did nothing. He didn't even stand up for me. And he's just like, well, everybody gets dinged in their reviews and blah, blah, blah. And then you just pull your stuff up by your bootstraps. No, the fuck you don't. It was your job to stand up for me in that room where I was not present and you chose not to. Turns out he was actually like working against me the entire time. Like, the year that I left, I heard that he tried to throw me under the bus for ruining the jazz library. I, during the pandemic, didn't touch a single leaf of paper in the jazz library because I made all of the students use PDFs, which I gave them from tunes that I own so that they would not spread germs or whatever. And like, it was another colleague of mine who did stand up for me in that room. She's a staff member instead of a faculty member, but regardless, she was just like, excuse me, point of order. Lexie had nothing to do with the jazz library being in shambles. That is definitely not her fault because of X, Y, and Z. And she then told me about it. It was like, yay, thank you for standing up for me. But it was after all of this that I had the opportunity to do my TED Talk. And that was when I was like, you know what? I don't even give a shit anymore. I'm going to throw this whole system under the bus and poke holes in it. And I'm not going to name names, just as I have not now. And I'm just going to call it out for what it is. This is misogyny, and this is otherism on a level that no one has any idea about when they get out of school. They don't teach you about this in school. And they especially don't teach you about politics as an autistic person. Like, I don't even do implication all that well. Like, I will miss social cues. So me even having the slightest idea about the politics of a situation that has existed long before I ever got there, I have no context for that.
You're just showing up wanting to do music.
That's exactly it. I just wanted to do a good job. And so, again, with the doing the good job thing, they're just like, well, you did too good a job. You made us all look bad. So now we're going to ding you on your review and, make your life a living hell. And so at the time, I was like super miserable. I was conversing with a then colleague of mine who was like, hey, I have a really good gig at this other university nearby, and the chair is awesome. She's super inclusive. Like, she's very supportive of everything that we're doing. I'm openly gay. She's openly gay. Like, there's no discrimination bullshit happening behind the scenes. Like, this could be a really good fit for you if you'd be open to it. I'm like, yes, please send me the application. I don't even care. I'll be a janitor. I just don't want to be here anymore. And so she sent me the application. I did it. I went through the audition process and all of that, and I got the job. I was the assistant band director at this university.
And you went from, a very, very large public university to a very small private university,
and got paid $4,000 more a year to do it.
Yeah.
But yes,
and the thing though, from a context standpoint, is it's like, again, like I'm sure that your experience, with colleagues at Indiana State and that is not a unique experience.
Oh God, no.
There's probably folks listening that are going,
oh, that's my life.
Yeah. Or and not even necessarily in music.
No, any subject.
Not even necessarily in academia,
right?
But like,
oh my God, corporate. Don't get me started about corporate.
But the point is, so you go to another institution thinking this is going to be a fresh start. So you had your high school band director gig fall apart.
Yep.
At a young age.
Yep.
In your 20s. In your 30s, you lost out on, you didn't lose your job, but it was miserable enough that you wanted out of there quick.
Yeah.
And so, this is like, okay, what are the odds of it happening again, kind of thing. So you take a new job. You're at a small private university as an assistant band director.
Right. And I took my time thinking about it. I was just like, okay, I could stay here at Indiana State for third year. Like, my contract is not up. I could break this contract, or I can go to this other university where I'm going to get paid more and I'm going to have an easier time. Like, commuting initially is going to be hard. Like, weighing the pros and cons. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I feel like I've weighed all my options and I'm going to do it, because what are the odds of fuckery happening a third time? Apparently really good. So said colleague that invited me to interview for this job was increasingly distant throughout my year at that university. We, the chair and myself, were closely working together because she was the director of bands and I was the assistant director of bands. Two positions that by nature have to be in the same room most of the time,
and you two just had a fantastic working dynamic.
Oh my God. And still do to this day. Like, she's gone on to do like high school teaching, but she'll have me come in and do clinics with her bands, and it's just like the good old days all over again. Yeah, like, I've never had a better working relationship than I did with my then chair. And we were inspired and like working toward improving the program, improving retention, improving recruiting, and all of the things that they have you do. We had designed a degree program that would fill in a lot of the gaps that I now am filling in on the Rogue Academic. But in terms of technology and production and the things that they don't really teach you in a standard music degree, performance degree, we were getting that together. And we were always inviting this other colleague of ours to like, hey, we want your input on this. Like, hey, what do you think about this? Hey, we have an open door policy. Like, come eat lunch with us. Like, we were being as inclusive as humanly possible. And that colleague the more inclusive we tried to be, the more distant they became.
Well, and especially because, again, this is somebody you knew before this job.
Oh, I had known her for 9 years.
Yeah.
I had known her for damn near a decade. She conducted on my final recital at IU. Like, I have history with this person. So, like, this is the last person that I would think would do anything to harm me, my career, or any other woman in the music industry, frankly, because, like, she's very about inclusivity and all that fun stuff. And
but I think too, looking at this program that you were developing, the idea was, I mean, it's not to say like, oh, we solved music education.
Oh God, no.
But I think the aspect of because the common thing that we see around higher ed as a whole is music programs shuttering because of, you know, the fact that like maybe student numbers are dropping off, maybe it's not a you know, worthwhile program to throw money at because you know, it's not going to be a big money maker down the road or whatever else, you know, and then we've seen it, the arts in general.
Totally.
But this is sort of your way of going, well, if this is eventually going to happen here, how do we go down swinging?
Right.
And you know, you kind of add in the business aspect, the production aspect. You're trying to create well-rounded people to then go out and do things. And so, I mean, I remember when this was kind of going on that you were talking about it, and I was like, that's a really great idea.
Thanks.
Because I think we all know a number of folks that got a degree in some sort of music program and are unemployed or underemployed or not even working in the field. And so this way it's going, here's how we can make you more marketable. Yeah.
Which is now basically the tenet of the rogue academic. I mean, we're coming full circle now. This is why we're here, right? So the more distant this colleague became, we basically just went, you know, we keep inviting her to things. She's not going to come. We're going to keep inviting her, but we just know that she's not going to show up because she had like 4 flat tires and 3 grandmas die in 1 year. Like, I don't know how that's possible exactly, but like there was an excuse for everything, in other words. Well, it turns out that those excuses were actually for her to go meet with different higher ups of the university to throw all of us under the bus and like put forth fallacious emails and like other dishonest things and spread lies about the chair and myself about what bad job we were doing and how inappropriate we were being with the students and this and that and the other thing, while she was harboring an actual student in her house, for the record. Like, they were living together. Like, no, that's completely appropriate, of course, obviously. So she fabricated all this crap and she filled the administrators' heads with all of these like wicked lies. And I know that sounds like, oh, woe is me, wah. But like, it was the day of my first faculty recital at the university and I crushed it and I was like, yeah, we're doing stuff. I like it here. You know, like that. I just felt really good that day. And I had invited my chair, of course, who came, and she came up to me after the recital. I said, you look, was that bad? Like, did I suck? Like, that doesn't look like a happy face. I mean, I might be autistic, but I know sad when I see it. She's like, nah, we should go to my office. And I'm like, am I in trouble? And she's like, no. Are you in trouble?
We're in trouble.
Right? And like, are you in trouble? No. Are we in trouble? Yeah, we're in trouble. And I'm like, how?
And also, let's put some context for timing on this.
Yeah.
So this is like almost end of the school year.
Yeah.
You know, I think you had completed 1 year.
Yeah.
And this is also a few days before you're set to actually go get your doctorate. Like,
yeah,
the commencement at
this was
IU.
like a week before that, I think.
Yeah, it was like within that time, because this should have been a joyous time of going like, I finally finished this.
I felt so fucking accomplished. Like, this recital was insanely good. It was honestly some of the best playing I'd ever done up till that point. And I was like, yeah, and I'm going to go get my doctorate, you know, la-da-da, like everything's coming together. And then we get pulled into this meeting with a bunch of the admin from the university who unceremoniously tell us that the chair has been demoted to a professor. You're a professor, meaning me. I have been demoted to a recruiting liaison for the music department, and said colleague has now been promoted to chair. And I'm like, hold the phone, you guys. You didn't even consider the 2 other faculty members that would be eligible to be the chair. And they're like, oh, we have. But colleague number 1, well, he's not the right fit for the position. He's not experienced enough. And you, while you are experienced enough, haven't been here long enough. So we're just going to promote her. And like all the rest of us that had been thrown under the bus just looked at each other and went, yeah, we're out.
Well, and especially because I think, you were still under contract.
Yeah.
And they were cutting classes, they were cutting parts of the program.
Yep.
And so it was basically going to be, well, we still are going to have you employed next year,
Mhm.
but you're not teaching any of the classes really that you were wanting.
Yeah.
That you're an expert in. So
Right.
instead, you're going to teach basically like freshman seminar or
Yeah. Music appreciation.
yeah, that and like kind of babysitting.
Like, you don't get a doctorate at IU to go teach music appreciation. I'm sorry. It's just not a thing. Like, I did not pay $400,000 to go teach a bunch of, like, freshmen that, like, hey, Bach existed. Like, that's not what I went to school for. And so, at that point,
and your whole like degree program idea was
scrapped entirely.
Even though that probably
It had already been approved.
Yeah.
It was on the books. And they were looking for ways to implement it, and then all of a sudden this.
Yeah, and I think the part that's really disappointing on this is not necessarily a colleague kind of, plotting and doing that,
Mhm.
but more the fact that the institution as a whole said, we're just going to believe this one person. We're not going to
Yeah.
get your side of the story, even though for the most part, like I think you would have had enough people backing you up on this.
Yeah, we asked for means of rebuttal and means of appeal, and they gave us none.
Yeah, and they basically, their attitude was, we just want this to go away as quick as possible because we have more important things with programs that are arguably more important. The school was definitely focusing on STEM.
They were building the engineering building at that point, I think.
And that's one of those that I think a lot of schools are like, humanities, we just want them to shut up and get out of the way because,
Right.
if we didn't have to deal with them, that would be better.
Yeah, exactly. So here I am, burned a third time in the higher ed space, and I'm just like, yeah, clearly I want to be a part of this. I am qualified to be a part of this. I have every reason and accolade to back up the notion that I should be teaching other people about my subject, but that industry does not want me.
Yeah, you were, I remember when that happened. You went and got your degree, and it was so bittersweet because it's like, I achieved the thing, but like,
It's meaningless now.
do I want to go back and do this again?
Yeah.
And I know that led to some job interviews here and there. And,
Yeah.
some great little conversations,
Yeah.
some, promising things. But for the most part, the same pattern was basically less than $50K a year pay.
And we're going to make you relocate without paying any of your relocation.
And there's no guarantee from a time frame. Like, it's not sitting there going, we're going to give you 3 years. It was maybe a year in some cases, maybe 2. And so the thing is, you're going, I'm going to move. Again, not naming names because, this was a common pattern, but it was you want to move halfway across the country, move to a different coast even.
Yeah.
And, the cost of living, $50,000 in Indiana is a lot different than $50,000, in, Colorado or Oregon or California. And so, that was sort of the other part of it going like, this is not a great value. This isn't a great bang for your buck to do. And, you're going, am I just going to go and get, kicked while I'm down again?
Right. Like, I feel like 3 times is enough.
Yeah. I think most smart people would go, nope.
No, most smart people would have quit while they're ahead and not gotten themselves into $400,000 fucking dollars of debt for a degree that is meaningless. Like, I am not here to paint myself as a smart person. I am, in fact, a dumb person who has learned everything the hard way. Jesus.
So you were sitting there weighing your options because unfortunately you can't just sit there and go, well, I guess I'm not going to work in higher ed anymore. And, I still need to feed myself and pay the bills.
Right.
So you kind of decided to just throw caution to the wind and go, I am going to try to find something else. And a friend of yours suggested going and working at a large music retailer.
Yeah, well, and what's funny is like at that time he wasn't even like a friend. He was a friend of mine on Facebook that I had met once at a concert. It was an acquaintance at best.
Yeah.
He had given me his card. And I saw that he worked at said music retailer, and if anybody is putting 2 and 2 together about where I am located and music retail, I think you know what company I'm talking about. Anyway,
again, we're not here to name names. They may be a sponsor someday.
They may be a sponsor someday. Genuinely, I was thinking about this today. I really do have a bittersweet relationship with said company. I know. Shut up. Don't give me that look. Don't give me that look. Because I really do believe in some of the things that they're doing. Actually, I believe in all the things they're doing. I don't believe in the way that they're doing them. I think they're fundamentally doing a lot of execution of their goals wrong. But that's probably more of the punchline to this eventual story.
So yeah, you managed to get a job at this place.
Yeah.
You're
Hired for my expertise.
Yeah, I mean, you're geeking out about gear,
Dude, I loved it.
You're being the trumpet expert,
Yeah.
being the band and orchestra expert.
I'm still those things. They still call me and ask me questions. Lexie, save me. I have a customer that needs to know about a 3-valve thing. Yeah, I know, bud. I got you.
And so the thought was, this will pay the bills.
Yeah.
But then, like, I can scratch that performance itch.
Yeah.
And so that was going to be the idea, is like, I'm doing this as the day job, and then I want to mix in playing on the
Wherever.
side.
Yeah. And like, I've never been highfalutin about my performance career. Like, I think that's maybe something that sets me apart from other musicians who have a similar pedigree as me, is that, I don't insist on being the principal of an orchestra or being in something that would be viewed as very academically important. I'm happy to play and make money. Like, that's it.
Yeah, because you're doing it for the enjoyment of it. You're not doing it to like prop yourself up on a pedestal. You're doing it because you like to play trumpet.
Exactly. But the thing they don't tell you about that gig is that you're in that building 12 hours a day. Like, between the meetings in the morning and like all of the expectations and hustle culture of like staying late and hitting the grind and this and that. Like, I had the highest call numbers of anybody on the floor for like the entire 2 years that I was there. I think one guy's now broken my record. I heard that somebody called like 436 people. I think my record was like 417. But at any rate, like, congratulations, whoever that was. But like, I outpaced every single metric they had. And they're like, well, if you meet all of these criteria and you're doing the work, then you will make the money. And that is patently wrong because of all the things they don't tell you about how you make money at said company. And so I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus, but the punchline here is that I didn't make any actual money at this job.
Well, I mean, you did, but it wasn't. It tapered off over time because, of course, as the economy kind of cut back,
shifted,
as some of those changes happened, and in some cases there were some aspects of old boys club.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And so you're going, I thought this was an academic, an academia only issue.
Yeah. No, the day that one of my managers looked me in the face and said, because I was early to a meeting, because I'm a teacher and I'm early to meetings. Like, that's our culture. That's how we do. I was early to this meeting, as I always was. And he looked me in the face and he's like, you spend too much time in this building. And I'm like, well, dude, you're the one who sets the schedule. I'm just here because you have me here.
Like, I'm showing up to the job that
right.
I'm employed at.
You're requiring me to be at this meeting, so I'm at this meeting that's happening 2 hours before my scheduled start time. So, like, yeah, I'm here. And then he says, you really should spend more time with your family. Like, dude, I don't even have time enough to spend at home to make a family, let alone spend time with the family I don't have. So maybe you could just change the schedule and then I don't have to be here as much.
But you kind of got that tone a little bit from numerous folks.
Oh
right?
my God, it wasn't just him.
It's the you're a woman, so therefore.
Yeah.
Why are you here where the
you
boys
should be in a kitchen?
like and not not to say that everybody working there was that way.
No, not at all. Like, the camaraderie on the sales floor, I will forever like cherish, because those cats, for the most part, respected me and respected like my expertise, and we helped each other. Like, that's how that floor works. And that's how my friend that had recruited me, like, that's how he was. And when he instructed me on different like standards of operation within the company, I would ask him like, well, why are you doing this miscellaneous thing? And he's like, oh, you just do it to help other people out. Like, you're leaving a breadcrumb for the next person that sees this thing or whatever, so like that on the sales floor was very different than anyone who was making a salary, let's say.
Yeah. And I know that was kind of one of those things that you were like, you appreciated the fact that you weren't an expert on everything, but you could work with other people and maybe they weren't experts on your topic of choice.
Yeah.
And so it was very rewarding in that way.
Yeah.
But then it would be kind of these little things of like, what are you doing here, little lady?
Yeah.
And, that I think there were some guys that really wanted to sort of live the Wolf of Wall Street type
Oh my God, so much.
lifestyle.
Oh Lord.
And so it's one of those that like just over time it wasn't worth your time really. Is
No.
that you're there so much. The money coming in, despite metrics and everything else, isn't really hitting it. And it wasn't just you. It
No.
was a lot
everybody.
of folks that had started around the same time as you and after. So
Yeah.
it wasn't like because I think that's one where it's real easy to think that you're the one with sour grapes, right?
Of course.
That you're sitting there going, okay, everyone's out to get me in academia. Everyone's out to get me here.
And that's something I want to say out loud for anybody listening to this podcast right now is this whole rogue academic thing is not me whining and bitching and moaning about how life did not work out for me. This is me speaking up on behalf of so many other people who have checked all the boxes, done all the quote unquote right things, and not gotten the result. The fact of the matter is that they've moved the fucking goalpost now. Like, I'm not even sure there is a goalpost. I think it's more like a Quidditch thing where it's a ring on a big tall stick and no one knows how to fly. Like that's the problem. And like they like it that way, they being the proverbial they, not a university, not corporate, whatever. Like the people that are in charge of these systems, and most of them happen to be boomers, let's just be honest. Like they like it when we don't have the tools to get our lives taken care of.
Well, and like one example that I had a friend who was doing some contract work, lost her job, and was trying to apply for another job, and this was like a months-long process.
Yeah.
And I mean, the amount of getting jerked around, the amount of games that happened because it was like, oh yeah, well, we need to have you do yet another round of interviews.
Yeah.
And I was like,
God.
5 rounds of interviews. Like,
Jesus.
I get that exists now, but to me, it's like that just shows you the disrespect you have of candidates. If like you're already narrowing it down to that few,
Yeah.
like why are you doing more of these and they're not even in person?
Yeah.
And her answer was kind of just like, well, that's just how it is. And like the fact that someone again who's like late 30s, a accomplished adult, if you will,
Yeah.
is sort of resigned to the fact that like this is the world that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's disposable and not worthwhile. I mean, that's something that I think universally a lot of folks can kind of relate to, and feel. And so yours is not necessarily a unique experience.
No.
But over time, you left that job and you were like, I'm going to bet on myself.
Yep.
And you got into,
Well, and that was one of the main catalysts for me leaving that job is I was just looking at the time versus the money that I was making. And I knew damn well that in a 2-hour studio session, or like if I added 3 more lesson students a week or whatever, like I could make that money and more and not have to get, berated by some misogynist asshole. You know what I mean?
Well, and you'd even get like customers that would call in, and if they hear a woman's voice, it's,
it was over with.
like can I talk to like
I need to talk to a real salesperson.
Yeah.
Like I need to talk to somebody who knows something. And I'm like, okay, bye. Like have fun with your life. But yeah, I mean, that was really the main catalyst. And I mean, I'm happy to say now that like from a week to week basis, I am averaging more money coming in per week than I was at that corporate job. I'm still not making what I was when I was working at a university, if we're talking just take home, I guess. But the point is, I don't answer to anybody. And that's part of the reason that this podcast exists and this website and this Facebook group exists, is that there are so many people that are working in creative industries or just industries in general, people in the labor force that are not able to speak up and stand up for themselves because they are afraid that their employer is going to come after them for having an opinion. I mean, I have bunches of DMs from people on Facebook and Instagram saying, hey, I love everything that you're doing, and I think that this really needs to be said. Someone needs to finally just, start lobbing grenades at these systems. But I can't interact with your content or else I will get fired. And I was just like, every single time I get one of those, I'm just like, yeah, motherfuckers, let's go. We are going to go harder for you. You have helped me out. Thank you. And like there haven't actually, I'm delighted to report there really haven't been a whole lot of haters so far. I mean, it's just a handful of folks that were, that get offended about me pointing out the obvious, that this industry, like so many others, is full of a bunch of old white cis het men that won't retire. Like, that is part of the reason that so many of us are unemployed. It's also part of the reason that so many oppressive systems remain in place because they keep holding them up. So
Yeah,
I'm just going to sit here and tell my story and encourage others to do the same.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's one of those things too that, you know, the reality of it, right, is that if some of these were to retire, you know, you won't have folks moving into those roles at that same rate of pay because of
That's a
course
fact.
everything is like, how can we do it cheaper?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know a lot of schools are adding a lot more adjuncts because
Yep.
gee, no tenure, no,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you're kind of a gun for hire, and
Yep.
so there's no kind of voice amongst the faculty in a lot of cases for
Oh, yeah.
adjuncts, you know, and it's just you show up, you teach your class, and you go away, and that's it.
Oh yeah, like the current labor force that's working in universities retiring is not the only facet of this solution. Like, we need to address a lot of things. But yeah, like the fact that they're replacing full-time tenure track jobs with adjunct jobs, there's a term, I think you might have introduced me to it, enshittification.
Oh yeah, Cory Doctorow's term.
Yeah. Like, that's happened to education, that's happened to the music industry. Like, we're fighting AI now, like we're having to compete with computers for actual creative space now. Great. Like,
Well,
there's
not to mention the fact that like streaming music has reduced payouts even more.
oh my god, right?
Although, you know, probably this podcast will be on, you know, Spotify and such.
It
so,
probably
you know,
will.
So we like those services for that.
Thanks
but
for giving us a space, but we're pretty angry about what you do with it sometimes. Yeah, like I've had so many discussions with musicians who are more well established than myself, and people that I'm hopeful to have on the podcast, frankly, if they are like thinking they want to say something. If they don't, I get it. But some of them are just like, I don't know why anybody pursues music as a career anymore. And I mean, these are lifelong musicians. These are people who have made their whole living making music, going, yeah, I don't know why anybody would want to do this, because if it wasn't for my real estate business, or if it wasn't for this other hustle that I was taught by some other guy, I don't know why anybody tries to do this for a living. It's like, dude, you have toured the world as a musician, and you're of the opinion that you don't know why people should do this? Like, what does that tell us about our society, really? Oh my God.
Well, and I think too that, because someone will sit there and go, okay, great, you've started this website, you now have a podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, the website's going to be, it's going to be a work in progress.
Yeah.
Like right now, we sort of have a placeholder.
Yep.
We'll probably have the podcast as a little link on there for the time being.
Yep.
Eventually, you're developing a course.
Yeah, a set of courses, and my hope is, and everybody listening is going, oh no, she's a guru, she's trying to do the self-help thing. No, I am not your savior. I am not the Messiah. I have just learned a bunch of shit the hard way, and I'm going to give you the available option to learn it the easy way, so you don't have to suffer like I did.
Now the thing is, this is like, because I know this is starting to feel like an infomercial, but the portion is basically the podcast. The goal of that is that's just for everyone to.
It's free
subscribe
information.
to. Yeah, and I know you basically have about 6 months of guests lined up already.
Yeah. I mean, like, when I started this, I'm like, this could crash and burn. This could be the most cringe thing on the internet. I recognize that. But I will not know unless I try. And so I tried. And I admittedly tried on a very low level in secret from everybody. Like, I did not like shoot out missiles of information into the world going, I'm doing this thing, look at me. I didn't even tell you about it until like I actually had followers, because I was like, this could be really cringe and stupid, and I don't know. I don't want to be judged. Not that I think you're judgy. But it was not maybe a week of having the group posted on Facebook before it had 50 members. We're at 160 and counting. It's been a month. And like, people are like, oh, 160 people, like, that's not a lot. Magnify that exponential growth over time. And I think that is indicative of myself being one of many who is angry about the way things have shaken out.
Well, and I think too, you didn't really touch on this directly, because we've talked about kind of your academic background and some of those experiences, but you have a vast network of friends, acquaintances, professional colleagues that, you've lined up, that I think what's going to be really, really enjoyable for anyone that maybe is looking for inspiration, even just not not necessarily all the answers on how to fix it, because it's totally a
Nobody has all the answers.
yeah, it's a your mileage may vary, your situation may vary.
Absolutely.
But, I think that you're going to have a lot of different point of views with this show. I
Mhm.
think you're going to have some interesting guests, some heavy hitters, honestly. I mean, because again,
Dude.
that's one of those that you've had those experiences.
Mhm.
You've worked with large touring acts, and
Mhm.
you've done that. And so I think that that's going to be the cool part is, folks are going to like maybe not know the names,
Right.
but it'll be like, oh, so-and-so does this with so-and-so, or so-and-so had this experience.
Right.
And I think that that's really going to be what's cool about it. Now, the course portion of it, that's going to be a paid option
Mhm.
that, you'll kind of add on. But if you just want to listen to the podcast, or you just want to interact,
It's always going to be free,
Yeah.
and it's always going to be good information, because one of the backbones of my personal teaching philosophy is that I don't teach what I don't know. I will always defer to someone who has expertise in whatever it is, right? So yes, I will be teaching these courses, but I'm going to be giving you the information from people that I got it from that are experts. It's just that I didn't want to bother them to sit down and, record a 16-hour course. Like, I think they have better things to do with their time. But like the podcast, like this is what I think separates this podcast from maybe some of the like self-help gurus. Like it's a super popular thing to be doing right now, and that's why I keep reiterating I'm not that. I am not your guru, I'm not your messiah. If anything, I'm your anarchy fairy godmother. Like, I intend to have guests on the podcast that can speak in detail about the things that I can't, right? Like, I can't tell anybody about a queer experience because I'm not queer. I can't tell anybody about an African-American experience because I am not African-American. So I'm not here to tell other people's stories. And furthermore, I am not here to pretend that I am an expert on finances. I think we would both laugh me out of the room if I claimed that I was. You know what I mean? Like, I've learned a bunch of crap the hard way, 100%. And that is the motivator for me putting together this podcast and putting together these courses is like, yeah, I've learned it all the hard way, and now I am paying for it, literally. But I don't want that to be everybody. Like, I know there's so many people that are in my shoes going, okay, how do I get out of $400,000 in debt with a degree that I can't use? Like, I'm not alone in that. I know I'm not alone in that. I mean, I can't imagine how, like, certain other like attorneys and doctors and things that don't go into their actual fields or don't, pass the bar or whatever must feel. Not that that's the only demographic that would end up like that. But anyway, like I am not the only one that feels this way. And I would rather spare someone coming up in the industry, like someone that has an amazing amount of talent in some way, whether it's musical, visual, or otherwise, from the amount of like hard knocks that I've had to experience. If I can make that easier for somebody, that's the goal. And that's why the podcast is always going to be free, and it's always going to be experts with good information that are not me.
And I think the goal too is, like, from a format standpoint, significantly shorter than this episode.
Oh yeah, this is just the backstory. It's context.
But, between setting it up, kind of getting it going, we had to have an episode.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, again, the idea is if you have any interest in music, if you have any, maybe just curious about some behind the scenes,
well,
how
like I said,
things work.
it's not just music. I mean, it's anyone who wants to share their expertise and their passion with a community. One of the 4 pillars that gets looked over in like school in general, right? You go to school for a subject, and there's a lot of universities that are like, well, we taught you the subject, it's up to you to make the business. Okay, but we live in a capitalist society, so you should have probably taught us a little bit about business so that we could go make money with our degrees.
And the answer isn't necessarily always go get an MBA.
God, no. We have so many MBAs. Don't go get an MBA. Like, everybody has one. Don't bother. But like one of the gaps that they leave out is like community building. There's like some of the best experiences you'll ever have are creating your own community of like-minded people to share knowledge. Like I have a friend in a rural area that is an historian, and like one of the things that I think about when I continue to design the course and work on the podcast and everything is like, how can I serve that person that lives in the middle of nowhere who wants to share her deep expertise in history, a completely non-musical subject, right? Not exactly a creative subject, with the world, and make money doing it. Like, how would I do that if I was in her shoes? And that's how I frame this. Like, when I'm working on the course, like, how can I make this work for people that aren't musicians or aren't actors or aren't visual artists? You know, this is not a creative person problem. It is a human living in the United States problem. Like, and again, I am not like the be all end all on the subject. I mean, there's tons of different like how to be creator programs out there that are exorbitantly expensive in my opinion. You could search those, you know. I mean, shoot, I could point you towards some if you DM me. This is not that. And one of the early comments that I got in the Facebook group about the establishment of the Rogue Academic was that like, oh, good, you're here to help people. You're not here to like put yourself on a pedestal and claim that you're God. And I'm like, nope, I am the furthest thing from it. I mean, I'm a trumpet player. Like, there is not necessarily a place for me in heaven.
Well, and I think that's the thing is, I mean, like even with this, you know, it's mostly the idea of, you know, we'll kind of hang out, you know, learn from some folks, maybe get some ideas, and, you know, you don't have all the answers, but it's kind of the idea of maybe we'll figure something out together.
I don't have all the answers, but I would put money down that I know someone who does.
Yeah. And I think in your case, you know, I think that's the other part is like the not the, oh, well, look at me. It worked perfectly.
God, no.
But I think in your current state of things, right, is that you're happy.
I am happy
Because you're able to, you know, you're going being a gigging musician, you're doing lessons, you're doing clinician work, you're doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And I mean,
oh, that's the best part of all of this. Like all of these haters and naysayers and people that, you know, give me crappy reviews on my, you know, like teaching whatever, like I'm still working in your industry. There's nothing you can do to stop me because I'm actually really good at what I do and people like working with me.
well, and I guess one other little question maybe that,
Yeah.
and you know, we can edit this in earlier in the show if we need to.
I guess.
One of the things, right? You're an accomplished trumpet player.
I am
we
an
could
accomplished
say.
trumpet player.
Why are you not working at a symphony orchestra?
Oh my God. Well, the first reason is that I have a vagina. Like that's a thing. Like, and you probably don't have any concept of this, not only because you're a man, but also because you've never had to work in an industry that is that misogynistic. So much so that like when we train female musicians to take orchestral auditions, we explicitly tell them to not wear heels. Because if the judges hear heels click on a floor, they actually put a little strip of carpet out now, so that like if you wanted to wear heels, you could, but it's ill-advised. Like you want to sound as big and heavy and clunky as you can possibly sound, because you don't want to give these people the impression that you're a light, dainty woman. It's terrible. It's like you're looking at me with this look on your face like, God damn, that's awful. I know it's awful. I've experienced it, but like. That is one reason why, right? It's not that I don't have the chops. It's really nothing to do with my playing. It's everything to do with politics. The other side of it is just like, and I can only use like my own life as an experience, or as an example, I suppose. But like there are people that have this notion that because you're a commercial player that you can't possibly play in an orchestra. That's frankly why I don't play in the local Philharmonic, is that there is one person doing the booking for the trumpet section who has this belief that because I am a commercial trumpet player, I couldn't possibly be good at symphony work. Okay, that's fine. I'll just go take studio gigs and play weddings and make crap tons of money doing that. Like I don't want to deal with your politics if that's the vibe here. Like I have no interest in working with you if you're going to discriminate against me because I'm a woman, and you're going to discriminate against me because my chosen path of playing is not Mahler. Like old white-haired people give a shit about Mahler. I don't. I give a shit about Mahler when it pays me money. And that, like, that musical mercenary thing is probably why I'm best suited as a commercial musician. Like, I don't really care who's paying as long as you're paying.
Well, and you know, that goes back to your childhood self, right? That
Yeah.
like you wanted to play trumpet as a job.
Yeah.
And I feel like you kind of achieved that.
Well, it never occurred to me that it wasn't possible. And, like, that was the thing. It never occurred to me that, like, oh, this is hard. Trumpet has never been hard for me. Like I have a studio of online students, and I am grateful for the opportunity to work with them. And it's not because they think it's hard. It's, you know what, the more recently, the more lessons I get that are actually people that know how to play trumpet, they know how to play trumpet well, but like they had a teacher that somehow got it in their head that some one thing about playing is difficult. And now they have this little mental bug in there that's like, you can't do X, Y, and Z because so-and-so said it's hard. Let me show you all the ways it's not. Let me demonstrate to you all the ways that you can make it so it's not. Like, and I've helped orchestral players, I've helped commercial players, I've helped people get out of show chops. Like, and I'm not here to toot my own horn, for lack of better expression. I know I'm going straight to trumpet player hell for that one. But in my defense, I was a band director and I'm allowed. But like most of what I do, like on a consult and a one-on-one lesson basis, is really not about trumpet playing in general. It's about your psychology. It's about some limitation that someone gave you somewhere along the way that we just need to unfuck. And so that's what I do. I mean, I teach lessons online and I play trumpet all day, and that pays all my bills, and I answer to no one. Fiend.
Obviously you have therogueacademic.com.
Yep.
And if people are listening to this, they might have already subscribed to the podcast, but if not, it'll be linked on there. Hopefully by the time this episode drops, it'll have propagated on the usual places too.
And all the socials. Like, I'm really good about making sure that people know about what's going on with the Rogue Academic on socials. If you're listening and you're like, hey, I have expertise in one of the 4 main subjects that you're covering. So those main subjects, if you have not picked it up yet, are mental health and wellness, surviving, abusive situations as an artist, financial literacy, things that they just don't teach you in school that might be helpful for you to learn in order to make money with your degree, leveraging technology to further your own career and to just, build your audience, build your sound, build whatever. And then actually building that audience, like creating a community is the 4th thing that we're general subject that we're covering. So if you're listening and you're like, I have expertise in these things, especially in the area of X, Y, and Z, please DM me, email me. All of that information is available on social networks, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I would love to talk with you and get your take on things.
Yeah. And then your website too, where they can reach you.
LexieTheTrumpeter.com, LEXIE, trumpeter, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So, thank you for listening to the first episode 0, I guess, the origin story of the Rogue Academic.
Villain origin story.
The villain origin story. This is what got me here. I'm mad, but that's okay. We're going to fix it together. Well, fellow rogues, that is a wrap on the very first Rogue Academic podcast. We are so glad you were able to join us. If you'd like to know more about the group, the movement, and the people in it, you can find us on all the social networks. We have a free Facebook group of the same name, as well as being on Instagram and TikTok. Today's episode was brought to you by Hideaway Coffee of Fort Wayne, Indiana. For 10% off of your favorite roast, enter Rogue10 at the checkout. With that, we're signing off. Remember, the system is broken, but together we are better. Don't be afraid to go rogue. Have a great afternoon, everybody.